This story will teach you how pride destroys kingdoms and brings separation among its people. Once upon a time, in the heart of Africa, there stood a kingdom so blessed that travelers spoke of it in faraway markets. The rivers were wide, the soil was rich, and the people were strong and joyful. At the center of this kingdom sat a palace built from stone and decorated with carvings of lions, eagles, and the rising sun. And on a throne of gold and ivory, studded with cowrie shells and polished gems, sat Queen Zolaira. In her early days as queen, Zolaira had been a woman of the people. She walked through the market barefoot, smiling and greeting farmers, mothers, and children. She listened to the advice of her elders and made fair judgments in disputes. It was said that under her reign, a stranger could walk into the village and eat without hunger, sleep without fear, and live without loss. Her people loved her, and she loved them in return. But as time passed, the wealth of the kingdom grew. Traders brought silks from the north, salt from the deserts, beads from the coast, and gold from the mountains. Tribute poured into her palace until the storehouses overflowed. With riches came songs of praise. Zolaira the Great, they called her, Mother of Prosperity, Lioness of the Throne. And slowly, pride crept into her heart like a snake in the grass. She began to see herself not as a servant of her people but as their master. She no longer greeted them in the market, instead, she was carried on a litter by 4 strong men, never letting her feet touch the dust of the earth. She no longer ate simple meals of millet and goat, instead, she dined on roasted gazelle, fish wrapped in banana leaves, and wine from faraway lands. When her people bowed before her throne, Zolaira began to believe they bowed not out of respect but because they were small and unworthy. Without me, she often declared, her voice echoing in the great hall, there would be no kingdom. Without me, there would be no peace. The sun itself rises because Zolaira commands it. Her chief advisor, Baraka, an old man with a bent back and kind eyes, worried as he watched his queen change. He remembered the days when she was humble, when she laughed easily, when her heart was open like the wide sky. One morning, after she dismissed a poor farmer without hearing his plea, Baraka dared to speak. My queen, he said gently, bowing low, a tree may grow tall and mighty, but it cannot live without the soil beneath it. A ruler may be powerful, but she cannot live without her people. The queen's laughter was sharp and bitter. Old man, do not compare me to soil. I am the sun above the tree, and all else lives only because of me. Do not forget who wears the crown. Baraka bowed again, but sadness filled his heart. He feared the path his queen was walking. Among the villagers was Omori, a young woman of 20 summers who worked in the market selling woven mats. She had once admired Zolaira deeply, even dreamed of becoming like her, strong, wise, and noble. But as she watched her queen demand tribute of food and cloth from people who were already poor, her heart grew troubled. One afternoon, as Zolaira passed in her golden litter, the people bowed low, their foreheads pressed into the dust. But Omori lifted her eyes and dared to look. She saw the queen's face, beautiful but cold, proud and distant. And in that moment, Omori whispered to herself, a mother who forgets her children will one day sit alone. The whispers of the people grew stronger. They dared not speak openly, for fear of punishment, but at night, around cooking fires, they murmured. Our queen has changed. She does not see us anymore. She grows fat while our children grow thin. Zolaira did not hear them. She believed herself untouchable, high above the reach of her people's voices. But the gods, who hear even the softest cry, were listening. And though Zolaira still sat proudly on her golden throne, the first winds of change had begun to blow. If you have watched up to this point, do well and subscribe to this channel for more interesting African stories. The palace courtyard was alive with the sound of drums and praise songs. Dancers twirled, griots sang of Queen Zolaira's beauty, and servants laid gifts of food at her feet. But among the celebrations stood the council of elders, men and women with grey hair, wrinkled faces, and eyes that had seen generations rise and fall. They carried no drums or songs, only the weight of wisdom. When the dancers ended, the eldest of them, Elder Mbeki, stepped forward. He leaned heavily on a staff carved from baobab wood. His voice was cracked but strong. "My queen," he began, bowing deeply, "we honor your reign, for it has brought us peace and riches. But the whispers of the land reach our ears. The people grow restless. Their voices say, 'Our queen does not see us. She eats while we hunger, she shines while we fade. We fear the balance of the kingdom is shifting.'" Zalaira's face stiffened. The dancers and singers froze, sensing danger in the air. "You dare to repeat the words of peasants to me?" Zalaira snapped, her bracelets clinking as she raised her arm. "Do they not see the palace I have built? Do they not walk safely under my rule? These people forget who keeps them safe from enemies. Without me, they would be nothing." The elders bowed their heads. But Elder Mbeki raised his staff again. His eyes glistened with sorrow. "My queen, remember this, the baobab tree grows wide and tall, but if its roots are starved of water, even it will fall. You are mighty, yes, but you stand because your people lift you. Do not let pride blind you." Zalaira's laughter caught the air. "Old man, your tongue is too bold. Take your warnings back to your heart. I am queen, chosen by the gods themselves. No river, no storm, no voice of peasants will bring me down." The elders exchanged looks of despair. They had spoken, but their queen's ears were closed. From the edge of the courtyard, Omori, the mat seller, watched in silence. She had come to deliver woven mats to the palace servants, but when she saw the elders bowing before the proud queen, her heart sank. She whispered softly to herself, "The gods have sent a warning, but our queen has refused to hear. When the storm comes, who will stand with her?" As the elders departed, the drums began again, but the rhythm was slower, heavier, as though the land itself was uneasy. In the shadows, Baraka, the old advisor, shook his head. "The ancestors see pride," he muttered, "and the ancestors always correct what they see." Unaware, Zalaira lifted her cup of wine high and drank deeply. Her throne gleamed, her voice rang with power, and her pride grew like fire. But far away, in the mountains and forests where the spirits dwelled, the gods stirred. For they had heard the elders cry, and they had seen Zalaira's arrogance. And in their unseen council, they whispered, "The time will come when the queen must learn what it means to lose the people she has forgotten." The season of harvest came. It was the time of year when the people usually sang the loudest, for the granaries overflowed with millet and yams, goats grew fat, and children chased one another in the open fields. Traditionally, the harvest festival was when the queen walked among her people, blessing them, eating from their hands, and thanking the ancestors for their labor. But this year, Zalaira refused. "Why should I walk among dusty farmers?" she sneered as servants dressed her in a robe woven with gold thread. "Let them bring the harvest to me. Let them kneel at my palace gates and thank me for giving them rain." Baraka tried to speak. "My queen, the rain is not from you. The rain is from the heavens. To take credit for what the gods provide is dangerous." But Zalaira waved her jeweled hand. "Enough. Bring the harvest here. Tonight we feast in the palace. If the people are loyal, they will come." So the people came, carrying baskets of grain, fruit, and meat. But they did not come with joy. They came with bowed heads and heavy steps. The old women whispered, "She takes, but she does not give." The young men grumbled, "We walk, but she feasts." And the children looked on with hungry eyes, for many of them had eaten little while the queen's storerooms were full. When the festival began, Zalaira sat high upon her golden throne, surrounded by dancers and singers. She stretched her arms wide. "Look at your queen," she cried. "See how I shine in gold. Without me, none of this would exist. You eat because I am strong, you dance because I keep peace. bow before me." The people bowed, but in their hearts, fire smoldered. Amari stood among them, her fist clenched. She looked at the tired faces of mothers, the hollow cheeks of children, and the cold pride of the queen. And in a voice too soft for Zalaira to hear, she said, "A mother who eats alone cannot keep her children forever." The ancestors heard her whisper. That night, when the feast was over, the skies darkened with strange clouds. The moon hid behind shadows, and the winds howled across the land. A flock of ravens circled above the palace roof, crying out harshly. The elders saw these signs and trembled. "The gods are speaking," Elder Mbeki whispered, "and their voice is never empty." But Zalaira laughed and poured herself more wine. The harvest festival ended, but the skies did not clear. Day after day, the sun hid behind black clouds. The wind grew hotter, harsher, blowing dust into the fields. The streams shrank, the cattle cried for water, and the millet stalks withered before they ripened. At first, the people waited with hope. "The rains will come," they said. "The land has always fed us." But the rains did not come. Weeks passed, and the ground cracked open like broken pottery. Children searched for berries in the forest but found none. Mothers went to the rivers, only to see dry stones where water once flowed. Fear spread across the kingdom. In the palace, Zalaira was not troubled. Her storerooms were full, stacked high with grain, salted meat, and jars of honey. When her servants told her that the people were growing hungry, she waved her jeweled hand and laughed. "Let them work harder," she said. "If their fields are dry, it is their weakness, not mine. The gods still favor me, for look at my stores. My palace is rich while they suffer. Is that not proof of my greatness?" But Baraka, her old advisor, shook his head. "My queen, the gods test rulers by how they treat the weakest. If the people starve while you feast, then you have failed them." Zalaira glared at him. "Failed? Do you dare accuse me? I am queen. They live because of me. If they suffer, it is because they are ungrateful." The next morning, at the palace gates, the people gathered. Mothers carried thin babies on their backs. Old men leaned on sticks, their cheeks hollow. Farmers came barefoot, their hands cracked from digging in dry soil. They begged, "Great Queen, we are your children. Share your grain with us, and we will live. Without you, we will die." For a moment, Zalaira looked down at them. She saw the hunger in their eyes, the trembling hands, the desperate voices. A shadow of doubt crossed her face. But pride rose quickly in her heart. "You come to me like beggars," she said coldly. "I owe you nothing. Go back to your huts. If you die, others will be born to replace you. A queen does not kneel for peasants." Her guards drove them away. The people walked home in silence, their stomachs burning with hunger and their hearts burning with anger. Amari, the mat seller, walked among them. She carried no food, only her woven mats, but she gave what comfort she could. She told the mothers, "Hold your children close. The ancestors see your suffering." She told the farmers, "Keep your hope, for no drought lasts forever." But in her heart, she too wondered, how long will this last? That night, Elder Mbeki gathered the council under the sacred baobab tree. The moon was a pale sliver in the sky, and the ground was so dry that even the roots of the mighty tree groaned. "The queen has closed her heart," Mbeki said, his voice trembling. "She feasts while her people waste away. The gods are watching, and their anger is near. Unless she changes, the land itself will rise against her." The elders nodded, their faces heavy with sorrow. One of them whispered, "But if the queen will not listen, then perhaps it is the people who must decide her fate." In the palace, Zalaira dreamed of herself seated on a throne of fire, her crown melting into ash. She awoke in sweat but told herself, it was only a dream. Yet outside her walls, the kingdom was breaking. Babies cried through the night, goats died in their pens, and the people began to murmur words they had never dared speak before. Perhaps our queen is cursed. And when a ruler is believed cursed, her crown begins to tremble. The famine grew worse. Days turned into weeks, weeks into moons, and still the rains did not return. The once green valleys were brown, the rivers were bones of stone, and the market stalls that had once overflowed with yams, cassava, and fish now stood empty. Even the birds that had filled the sky were gone, as though they too had abandoned the land. But inside the palace, Queen Zalaira's tables were full. Each evening, her servants brought her roasted goat, steaming millet bread, and jugs of palm wine. She sat on her golden throne, eating while her people wasted away beyond the palace walls. The hunger in the village grew sharp as a blade. Mothers buried their babies in shallow graves. Fathers grew too weak to till the soil. The cries of children echoed through the night like a haunting song. At first, the people whispered their pain, but soon their whispers grew into anger. "Does the queen not see us?" they muttered. "She eats while we starve. Is she still our mother, or has she become a stranger?" Amari, the mat seller, was among them. Her hands, once strong from weaving, had grown thin, but her spirit remained fierce. Each day she went to the village square, speaking to the people with fire in her eyes. "Our queen has forgotten us," Amari declared. "She believes her throne will save her, but what is a throne without people? What is a queen without her children?" The villagers nodded, their anger swelling like a rising flood. Elder Mbeki, too, could no longer keep silent. One evening, he walked with his staff to the gates of the palace. He called out in a voice that carried across the courtyard, "Zalaira, daughter of kings, listen to the cries of your people. The gods see your pride, and they are not pleased. If you do not open your storerooms, your throne will fall, and your name will be remembered with shame." The queen stood on her balcony, dressed in silks and gold, her crown gleaming in the fading sun. She looked down on the old man and laughed, her voice sharp and cold. "Old tree," she said mockingly, "your roots are withered. Do not think your words can move me. I am Zalaira, the lioness of the throne. The people need me, not the other way around." Her guards beat their drums, drowning out the elder's words, and drove him away. But the people had heard. And this time, their hearts hardened against their queen. One night, as the moon rose pale over the silent village, the people gathered in secret by the baobab tree. Men and women, old and young, all came, their faces shadowed with hunger and anger. Amari stood in the center, holding a burning torch. "We can no longer bow to a queen who lets us die," she said firmly. "If she will not give us grain, then we must take it. If she will not share her heart, then we must take back our power." A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. Some were afraid, for the queen was still powerful and guarded. But others clenched their fists, their eyes burning with fury. Hunger had made them bold. Elder Meki raised his staff. "Children, listen. I have lived many years. I have seen kingdoms rise and fall. No ruler stands forever. The gods themselves have turned their faces from Zalaira. If we rise together, we will not be alone. The ancestors will stand with us." The people lifted their torches high. For the first time, they no longer spoke of their queen with respect. They no longer called her mother. Instead, they called her the devourer, one who ate while her children starved. And in the palace, Zalaira could feel the shift. Though she still feasted, though her throne still shone, she felt the weight of unseen eyes watching her. When she walked the halls, the shadows seemed to whisper. When she looked into her mirror, she thought she saw faces of the hungry staring back at her. Yet her pride chained her heart. "They are nothing without me," she told herself. But outside her walls, her people were preparing to prove her wrong. The kingdom was on the edge of fire, and soon it would burn. The night came heavy and silent. No laughter drifted from the huts, no drums rose from the courtyards. Hunger had stolen joy, and silence had stolen song. But in the village square, a single flame burned, the torch of Omori. One by one, the people gathered. Men carried spears fashioned from farming tools. Women carried empty baskets, not for trade but for survival. Children clung to their mothers, too weak to stand alone, yet their eyes glowed with the same fire of anger as their elders. Elder Meki stood before them, his staff planted firmly in the ground. "The gods are watching," he said in a voice that trembled yet carried strength. "Our queen has turned her heart to stone. She feasts while we bury our children. Tonight, we rise not for hatred but for justice. A ruler who forgets her people is no ruler at all." The people answered with a roar, weak from hunger, but fierce in spirit. Together, they marched toward the palace. The moon was high, casting silver light on their torches. Their shadows stretched across the cracked earth, long and angry, as if the ancestors themselves were walking beside them. Inside the palace, Zalaira sat upon her throne. She wore her crown of gold, her robe of silk, and jewels glittered on her arms. Before her lay a banquet of roasted meat, rice, and sweet fruits. She raised a goblet of palm wine to her lips when she heard it, the sound of drums, not of celebration, but of war. Boom! 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 The queen frowned. "What noise disturbs my feast?" Her guards rushed in, their faces pale. "My queen, the people are coming. They carry torches. They shout against your name." Zalaira's pride flared. "Let them come. I will remind them who rules this land." But when she stepped onto her balcony, she saw a sight that froze her heart. Thousands of torches blazed in the night. The voices of men, women, and even children rose in a single cry. "Zalaira has betrayed us. Zalaira has no heart. Zalaira must fall." For the first time, fear cracked the queen's pride. She turned to her guards. "Drive them away," she commanded. But the guards only lowered their spears. Hunger had touched even their families. Loyalty could not fill empty stomachs. "Forgive us, my queen," they said, stepping aside. The palace gates crashed open, and the people stormed in. Omori led them, her torch held high, her eyes blazing with the strength of one who carried the pain of many. Behind her came Elder Meki, steady and unshaken, his staff tapping against the stone. The queen backed away, clutching her robe. "Do you dare enter my halls?" she shouted, her voice trembling. "I am your queen. Without me, you are nothing." Omori stepped forward. "Without us, you are nothing," she replied. The people surged around Zalaira. Some seized the banquet table, overturning bowls of food. Others tore down the silken curtains. The hall that had once shone with glory now echoed with anger and hunger. Zalaira fell to her knees. "Spare me," she cried. "I will share my stores, I will open my heart, only spare me." But it was too late. The people had seen her pride, her cruelty, her greed. They carried her from the throne she loved so dearly, through the gates, and into the same square where they had once bowed before her. And there, beneath the ancient baobab, the people declared with one voice, "Zalaira is no longer our queen." The crown was torn from her head, and the woman who had called herself lioness was left in the dust, trembling and alone. With Zalaira cast down, the people turned to one another. They shared what little food remained, breaking dry bread into pieces so no child was left without. Omori gave her woven mats to mothers so their babies could sleep on something softer than bare ground. Elder Meki prayed under the baobab tree, asking the ancestors to guide the kingdom into a new dawn. And slowly, the land answered. The skies that had been black for so long began to shift. Clouds gathered, not with fire, but with water. The wind grew cool, carrying the scent of life. One morning, as the people lifted their weary faces, the first drops of rain fell. The children laughed, stretching out their hands to catch the water. Farmers ran into their fields, pressing their palms into the wet soil. Goats and cows lifted their heads, their cries softer now, as though they too felt the blessing. The drought was broken. The famine began to ease. The kingdom lived again. But Zelira did not share in their joy. Banished from her palace, she wandered the land like a beggar. She wore no crown, no silks, no jewels. Her feet bled from walking, her hands shook from hunger, and her eyes, once full of pride, now held only shame. When she begged for food, some gave her scraps, but others turned away, saying, "Did you not once laugh as we starved? Did you not once close your gates against us? Now taste what we tasted." Zelira wept, but her tears could not wash away the scars of her pride. In the village square, Omori and Elder Mbeki stood before the people. Together, they guided the kingdom not with greed, but with care. The people listened, walked, and shared, and slowly their land grew strong again. And so the story of Zelira became a lesson told for generations. Mothers whispered it to their daughters, fathers told it to their sons, and elders spoke it to the youth by the fireside. Pride blinds the heart, they would say. A ruler who forgets her people will be forgotten. A queen without mercy is no queen at all. The baobab tree stood tall, its roots deep in the earth, its branches wide in the sky, a witness to both the fall of a proud queen and the rising of a humble people. And as the rains returned, so too did the truth. The strength of a kingdom lies not in the crown of its ruler, but in the heart of its people. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and comment for more African stories.